Whoa, that's a full rainbow.
On the 8th of January 2010, Paul Vasquez, known by most as Bear, was on his property outside of Mariposa, California, when he noticed a strange phenomenon overhead.
Whoa, man.
As an avid documentarian, Paul made sure to film the scene, as well as his emotional response to the majestic sight in front of him.
Oh my god, oh my god!
This video would go viral in the following months, and from then on, the world would know Paul as the Double Rainbow Guy.
Oh, wow! Woo!
There's a sense of unfiltered authenticity captured by this moment. It's something I would say was more prevalent in the early days of YouTube and the internet at large. Obviously, I'm biased when I say that. However, I feel that as more time passes, it's harder to find material from everyday people that impacts me in the same way.
Double rainbow all the way across the sky!
Double Rainbow may just be a meme to most of you, but I see it as a source of inspiration to live unapologetically and champion the things you love. And while I could never recreate that same magic, I think I can make a decent enough tribute in the world of Pokemon.
What does this mean?
One of the most popular forms of shiny hunting is the classic starter reset. It's at the beginning of most games, making it easy to jump in. It's usually quick to reset and check each time, and you don't need to worry about catching the Pokemon. You just receive it right away. Not all starter hunts are created equal, of course, and going by the most recent games, it appears we're getting fewer and fewer opportunities to obtain that shiny partner. Whenever I think about resetting for a starter, my mind always goes back to Ruby and Sapphire. I love the Hoenn games, and Ruby was technically the first Pokemon game I played all the way through, so it's a clear choice for me. Compared to all the other options out there, this is undeniably a staple. There's really only one thing that might trip you up.
The inevitable happened. I thought it would never happen to me.
Hey guys, it's ENFP Champion, and here's my second shiny Poochyena.
At the end of the day, it is what it is. Also, that's a shiny Poochyena.
I just found a shiny Poochyena in my Sapphire version. This came after 4 weeks of SRing for a shiny Mudkip. Wow, this is just really disappointing.
In a sense, I just don't believe... I got a shiny Pooch.
Oh, no. Oh.
Are you freaking kidding me? Oh. God damn it. Quick bathroom intermission. No! 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 No!
Oh my god. I want to just like kill myself right now. I just got a shiny Poochyena. I just want to just like end my life. I'm done. I'm done. I'm just gonna quit. I'm done. I'm just done. I'm just quit life. Quit life. Peace out. See you later. Toodaloo! I quit shiny hunting forever.
Alright, let's just kill it.
Every time you choose a starter in Ruby and Sapphire, you're forced into a battle with a wild Poochyena. And as you can see, this Poochyena can be shiny like any other wild Pokemon. At this early point in the game, you don't have any Pokeballs, so it's impossible to catch. Your only options are to knock it out or turn the game off. As thrilling as finding a shiny can be, it's pretty devastating to miss your chance to catch one, no matter the circumstance. But it's not like it matters that much. This Pooch will always be uncatchable, so shiny or not, all that really matters is whether or not this guy sparkles. Yippee! And in the vast majority of cases, I would agree with that logic, despite the more recent trend of hunting uncatchable shinies, which I'm a big fan of.
Got him!
But all of this begs the question, what if you were to run into a shiny Pooch and a shiny starter at the same time? I mean, you wouldn't get anything else out of it, but it would be pretty cool, right? What are the odds of that happening? The chances of finding a single shiny in these games is 1 out of 8,192, so running into 2 at once would come out to 1 in 67,108,864. Yeah, so this is not happening. Is there even a single documented case of this on original hardware? Definitely none that I could find. Although, that's not to say it's never happened. Ruby and Sapphire sold a collective 16.22 million units, and if we assume that each copy was played around 4 times on average, which isn't far-fetched considering how popular the games continue to be throughout the years, then we've at least hit odds as a global population. So, maybe it's already happened, maybe it hasn't. Either way, I'm about to make it happen for potentially the first time on console. But how, you ask, can one accomplish this near impossible feat? Why, with the knowledge of RNG manipulation, of course. There are 2 questions I need answered before going through with this. The first is how does the game generate these 2 Pokemon, and the second is how does the game decide which Pokemon will be shiny. I'll start by going through how the GBA games work as briefly as I can. To create the feeling of random outcomes, these games use a pseudo-random number generator. The date and time on the cartridge creates a 32-bit initial seed, which is plugged into this formula, spitting out continuous 16-bit seeds every frame. These numbers seem random to us, but are just the result of some math, making it possible to predict the outcome as long as you know the initial seed. Whenever the game executes a function that's supposed to be random, it performs an RNG call using the current seed. This is done several times when a Pokemon is encountered to create its personality value and its individual values. The PID determines several of the Pokemon's attributes, and the IVs are the Pokemon's base stats ranging from 0 to 31. While not all Pokemon are generated in the exact same way, the starters and Poochyena are created with 2 consecutive RNG calls, one for the PID and one for the IVs. This is known as the Method 1 type of generation. Despite appearing on screen after the Pooch, the starter is created first, followed by the Pooch exactly 138 frame advances later. I know that was a lot, but bear with me, we're just about there. To determine which Pokemon will be shiny, the game takes a look at the PID and the player's trainer ID and secret ID combination. The TID is the number on the back of your trainer card, and the SID is the other corresponding value which we can't see, both of which are created when you start a new file. The game performs a bitwise exclusive OR operation on the first and second half of the PID, as well as the trainer ID and secret ID, and if that output is a value less than 8, it will be shiny. This is also where the odds come from, by the way. So, let's put it all together. To make the double shiny happen, we must find a pair of PIDs that are 138 frames apart that will both become shiny with the right trainer ID and secret ID combo. I opened PokeFinder, selected Gen 3 stationary RNG, which is the same as Method 1. I made sure the starting seed was 5A0, which will always be the starting seed for Ruby and Sapphire if they have a dead battery, and hit search within a window of about 30,000 frames. This is where I got a little stumped. I had no idea how I was going to actually locate the pair I needed. Theoretically, I could take a given PID, plug it into this tab to create IDs that make it shiny, update the profile with those IDs, check shiny only, and see if there are any compatible spreads that are exactly 138 apart. And I guess I would just repeat that process frame by frame until I found it. What a terrible, inefficient way to go about this search. So that's exactly what I did. Hey, I know it sucks, but I'm not the computer guy. I'm the guy who's in way too deep. This is happening, damn it. Luckily, I didn't have to search for too long. I started at frame 1000 to give me plenty of time for the encounter, and after 370 searches, I found this pair. Now that I know the PIDs in question, I can figure out which TID and SID are the best to start the game with. RNG manipulating your IDs in Ruby and Sapphire is pretty straightforward. All you need to do is mash through the game's introduction until you get to the very end when Professor Birch says, "Come see me in my Pokemon lab."
Hey there, little fella.
The moment you press A on this dialogue is when your TID and SID are created, with 1/60th of a second precision or 1 PRNG frame. While that may sound pretty quick, which it is, using a timer and some practice makes landing the combo you want more than feasible. Now just sit back and relax as I put all the pieces together. There you go. It happened. Why then is the video not over? It's simple, really. I have a bad habit of being overly thorough with these little projects of mine, and I couldn't help but notice that there's a third Hoenn game on the GBA. I'm sure you all have heard of it. And it just so happens that Emerald starts with the exact same scenario of sending out a starter in battle, except the wild Pokemon is not a Poochyena, but a Zigzagoon.
So in my quest to obtain a shiny Mudkip, I encountered a shiny Zigzagoon after soft resetting for a lot. I soft resetting for almost 15,000 times on Ruby, and now I've switched to Emerald because I heard good things about that. After about 200 or so soft resets, I ran into a shiny Zigzagoon. Whoopee me, I can't catch it, so I get to soft reset and do nothing. Yeah. Crap. So in response to my last shiny Zigzagoon I posted, here I am about 10 soft resets later, and there's another one. Yippee! And of course my Mudkip is not shiny, so I get to soft reset again. Woohoo! Crap. So here I am, like 20 minutes later, and still trying to get a shiny Mudkip, and I encountered my third shiny Zigzagoon. I would really like one of these shinies to be a Mudkip, because this is getting kind of old. So, soft reset again, and once again, crap.
Because of the transformative nature and immense lore implications of this swap, I felt compelled to go for the double shiny in Emerald as well. As we learned from Ruby and Sapphire, the first thing to do is figure out how many frames pass between generating the starter and the wild Pokemon, and then find two PIDs in the RNG sequence that are the same distance apart and capable of being shiny together. This window is 145 frames wide in Emerald, so that's what I'll be searching for in Pokefinder. I feel like I got pretty lucky last time, so instead of searching manually, I made an attempt to automate the process. I used the Power Automate software to do all of the plugging and checking for me. Again, I know there were probably more optimal ways to set this up, but I'm so glad I did this because a result didn't come up until 25,245 frames. Believe it or not, that was the easy part, because getting the right IDs in Emerald might just be the most difficult RNG task in all of Generation 3. That one frame perfect input in the previous games is nothing compared to this monstrosity. To start with, it doesn't matter when the system is turned on. The RNG process we care about won't begin until A is pressed on the new game screen. After doing so, the game advances like normal until we reach the section to input the player's name. Once A is pressed on the dialog box, "What's your name?" the game starts a new timer called Timer 1. As long as you're in the naming screen, Timer 1 will rapidly cycle through different numbers and will only stop when you hit OK. Whichever number the timer was on at that point becomes the player's trainer ID. That same value is also used to reseed the PRNG, meaning we are now on a brand new path. And finally, whichever frame you end the intro sequence on from that point will determine your secret ID. Clearly, this situation is much more involved than Ruby and Sapphire, but to fully understand why getting specific ID numbers is so difficult, I need to explain Timer 1 a bit more. As I've mentioned several times before, most outcomes in the game that we care about are determined by the PRNG, which advances at a rate of 16 milliseconds per frame or 256 Hz. But Timer 1 doesn't follow the PRNG. Instead, it is determined by the CPU directly. Now, the CPU advances at 16.78 MHz, or every 59.6 nanoseconds. Yes, I said nano. At that speed, for every one frame the PRNG advances, the CPU can advance up to 280,000 times. So let me see if I can paint the full picture for you. To reliably get a certain trainer ID and secret ID combo in Emerald, I must start a new game, press A frame perfectly to open the naming screen, press A with nanosecond precision to close the naming screen, and then press A again frame perfectly to end the introduction. Considering everything I just said, you would think that RNG manipulating this would be impossible. And that's what I thought too, until I did some digging online. While there is sparse material on this subject in the English-speaking world, I found a handful of guides in the Japanese community outlining this exact process. In 2020, Bonjiri, a prolific software developer for Pokemon RNG, released a tool called TID Finder, which allows you to calibrate each step of this process. Searching for your desired TID will create possible timings for the opening and closing of the naming screen, as well as likely results within a 40-digit window. Then, inputting the SID you want will show you how many frames to wait afterward. From my understanding, while Timer 1 does advance faster than humans can track, the game as a whole continues to operate in 16 millisecond intervals. So theoretically, if one is to open and close the naming screen frame perfectly, the Timer 1 value should be consistent. Unfortunately, Timer 1 can also be affected by button presses or even holding a button down for too long. This still makes it possible to hit your TID, but the results will be much more variable. While reading through some of the available guides, each author made one thing very clear. Given the difficulty of hitting the TID itself, it is unrealistic and perhaps a fool's errand to also try for a specific SID along with it, which entails one more frame-perfect input after all of that. So that's exactly what I set out to do. Before I had any chance of being successful, I first needed to do several calibration runs to see which IDs I was more likely to hit. I set the timer for frames 1 and 2 as short as I could so that my resets would be as fast as possible, and I then tried to get through the intro with consistent timing. The SID doesn't matter at this stage, so I button mashed through the rest. For each attempt, I recorded which TID I landed on and hoped to see some sort of pattern. I decided after about 40 attempts to go ahead and pick a target. Out of those 40, I got an ID in the 35,000 upper 900s 4 different times, all of which fell within an 11-digit window. Feeling pretty good about it, I next needed to check compatible SIDs before locking in a specific number. See, whichever TID you get becomes the current PRNG seed, which means some TIDs are going to have shorter waits for the right SID, while others will be much, much longer. This essentially means I can't pick any TID I want unless I'm willing to add a lot more time per attempt on the back end. So I plugged in some potential TIDs for my range and checked each for a fast SID frame, and the winners ended up being these two. But we're still not done calibrating because I haven't even tested if I can hit the SID frame. And unfortunately, it's highly involved. We call it the secret ID because it's not visible to the player, so the only way to check it is by RNGing Pokemon that would be shiny with certain ID combos. This strategy, known as Choppy's method, goes something like this. Make it to the end of the naming screen and start a timer as you close it, finish the introduction as the timer ends, and check your TID. Plug your TID into the initial seed of the PRNG, in this case I just need to put it into this section of TID Finder, create a range of about plus or minus 20 frames around the SID you were aiming for, and attempt to RNG a shiny starter using the target SID first and fan out from there until you get a shiny. In my case, I didn't hit my target initially, so I tried for one SID earlier until 5 early. When none of those produced a shiny, I tried one SID later and ended up confirming that I hit the SID 2 frames late on the following check. Taking the delay into account, I repeated this portion a few more times just to be sure that I was on target, and I decided it was consistent enough. And now, with all the calibrating complete, I can finally make a real attempt at the double shiny in Pokemon Emerald. So far, I was feeling cautiously optimistic. 10% of my TIDs were in a relatively small range, and if that continued, I would have a good chance of hitting my target within a few hundred attempts, which is slightly less than the 400 to 500 others had reported before getting theirs. But I was humbled pretty quick. The main issue I ran into was maintaining consistency. All of these frame-perfect inputs left no room for error, and the smallest variable could throw things off, like starting the timer while holding the SP versus the SP on the desk for a firmer, more synchronized button press. Or, my timer sometimes glitched out and played the audio cue slightly earlier or later between sessions, completely changing the results. But I would say the factor above all else was the mental game. I had to stay pretty focused for the many timers and button presses, but I also preferred to have some other video or podcast playing in the background to maintain my sanity. And while these were distracting at first, my ability to dial in improved over time with plenty of other things going on. With all of that said, it became clear to me that my present target was becoming less and less viable as the previous 10% hit rate quickly dropped lower and lower. After a couple hundred attempts, I was hardly getting any results in my desired range, and I felt it was time to reevaluate. Remember, each TID has a different waiting period for the SID frame, so every time I change my target, I need to redo that calibration.
Oh my God!
Suffice it to say, I was not going to change my target unless I felt it was absolutely necessary. As the number of attempts rose from 200 to 300 to 600 to 800, I changed my target several more times. This was in part due to having more data and thus a better understanding of the ID clusters. But a frustrating aspect of this is even if I had a clear group of IDs, some targets within that range were much less likely to come up than others. So instead of shooting for averages, I eventually just aimed for the one specific ID I would hit most often. At one point I was switching targets between attempts because they both felt equally viable, which in hindsight was pretty dumb because what if I was aiming for one and I hit the other? I was clearly feeling pretty desperate at this point. During one of my routine reevaluations, something jumped out at me that I hadn't seen before. I was checking a list of commonly hit IDs, and I noticed 2 of them shared the same SID frame advances, which is extremely unlikely. What this meant is that I could aim for either ID and use the same calibration for the SID, a 2-for-1. The only catch was these SID advances made each attempt take twice as long as most of the others, but I felt that was a good compromise. And not too long after, it certainly paid off. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god! We have a run. We have a run. This is not a drill. This is not a drill. Oh crap. Okay. This could be it. Let's plug in this guy. Timid. 19, 9, 9, 12, 10, 14. Oh no. Oh no. Oh my god. That was it, wasn't it? Oh. No way. What? I'm not even gonna say anything. I'm just gonna go with it. Okay. We've been through this. We've been through this. Okay. All right. Don't be timid. Don't be timid. Oh, it's not. Okay. We're still in this. Oh, please don't be timid. Please. No. No. Oh, don't tell me it happened again. Please don't tell me it happened again. No. Stop playing with my heart. Oh my god. Oh my god. This is brutal. This... I can't even describe. This sucks. Oh. I think I need to take a break. While I knew this was a possibility, I was pretty crushed that my first 2 potential runs ended up being duds. And as nice as it was to get them so close together, that streak didn't continue until days later. Gotta run. We gotta run, ladies and gentlemen. Alrighty. Number 3. Oh. 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 Unless I was just going to give up completely, I had no choice but to throw myself at this grind and watch the attempt number climb. There were times when I felt the game was toying with me in the form of so many close calls I couldn't keep count.
Ugh. Brother, ugh.
1100, 1200, 1400, 1600. Okay. Well, it's been a while since we've had one of these, so, and this is the first time that I've actually hit the 22098. So yeah, could be it, but you know, after the last few times, I definitely don't have my hopes up too much, but it could all be over now. So yep, let's see. Yes! 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 Woo! Yes! First try! Oh my god! Yes! 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 Oh my! Oh my god! Oh my god! I mean, I guess it could be just a random shiny, but I don't think so, because... Yeah! Woo! Yeah! I did it! It's over! I did it! Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, okay, hold on. Give me a second. Give me just a second here. All right. It's over. I did it. World's first, probably. Double shiny starter and Zigzagoon on retail Emerald. That is gotta be the first time that this has ever happened without any kind of like major glitches like Ace or you know, like setting this up on an emulator first, you know, but this is it. And funny enough, it was on the 22098, which is the only time I've hit this ID. So yeah, I just I'm really happy right now. If you couldn't tell, I'm pretty happy about this. So yeah, you know, I guess I'll just do this a couple more times just to show off the other starters. And but yeah, what a way to end it. What a way to end this journey. So yeah, just stick around for the other two if you want. And I might as well go ahead and see if Trico has what it takes to take down the Zigzagoon, which I'm sure it does. Incredible. All right, well, I'm not gonna keep this, so I'll just go ahead and let's go ahead and do the other two. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you're open to it, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed. Oh, and also I made this graph that shows all of my ID attempts for Emerald, and it's probably pretty useless to most people, but I thought it looked kind of cool. So if you look at all the green dots, those are all the failed attempts. Obviously, that's the majority of the attempts were failures. But what's interesting is you have the red dots, which were the 4 times that I hit the target that I wanted to, but the purple dots were actually the times that I landed on the same ID number 2 attempts in a row, so back to back, which is kind of crazy considering how ridiculous this RNG is. And it happened like 7 times, I think, which is nuts. I'd like to think it was because I was getting better with my timing and everything, but who's to say, really? Because, again, this whole process was just ridiculous. But please enjoy this graph if you're into that kind of thing. And if you're not, then thanks again. I'll see you all in the next one.